channel. For today's video, I wanted to show you my mythology book. This is another book in the Ologies series by Dugald Steer, and this is one of 3 that I own. I have some critiques of this book, but I will save that for the end. So if you don't want to listen to that, it'll be easy to avoid. So I'll walk you through it and then I'll get into my thoughts. I love the colors of this cover, the turquoise, and I think that these stones are really pretty. The artwork in this book is gorgeous. So here's the inside cover. Lots of things for us to look at and beautiful artwork. And the premise of this book is that it's a textbook about Greek mythology by Lady Hestia Evans. And then kind of the side story is that this man named John Oro, he was friends with Lady Hestia Evans, and he took her textbook on a trip to Greece, and he was charged with finding Greek artifacts for a museum that was being set up in Athens. And over the course of his trip to Greece, he gets kind of corrupted and believes that he's talking to Zeus, and he starts to want to keep all of the things that he finds for himself, and starts crossing boundaries, like stealing from people to get more things for himself. So that's like the side story in this one. So on the front page here we have a letter from Hestia to John, just saying, sending you a copy of my book. You can write in the margins, if you find anything of value, send it to my friend Mr. Patakis in Athens, who is starting a museum. And then the copyright information is underneath there. I'm wondering if Dugald Steer what actually was part of this, because he's listed on the other books that I have, but he's not listed here. Oh yeah, it says by Nick Harris, Nikki Palin, and David Wyatt. Oh, the illustrations are. He's not listed. Oh, yes, he is. Lady Hestia's editor, Dugald A. Steer. Yep. Okay. So that's what this is. We have a little ad for the Greek islands, a little copy of a poem by Lady Hestia Evans, her picture, and then these are notes from John Orr about how excited he is to be going to Athens. And then this is a letter, a grim and terrible warning to the readers of this book from John Oro about 3 months have passed since I came to Greece. My plan was to find as many antiquities as I could. In the margins of this book you'll find notes on my sad tale, but now I must stop. My time is short. I feel as though I can no longer hold this pen. Zeus, forgive me. So there's the mystery there, and then this is like a little fake title page for a textbook. I'm gonna take a sip of my tea here. I love the artwork in this book. So at the tops and bottoms of each page they have this beautiful artwork, and the illustrations are gorgeous. statue of Zeus in the temple at Olympia. And then this is the basics of ancient Greek. So they're explaining the is it modern Greek or ancient Greek? I think they are. Maybe it says modern Greek is different from ancient Greek, but it still uses the same alphabet. Okay, so this is the Greek alphabet. And then different names of gods and heroes written in Greek. And then different phrases in modern Greek. And there's a lot of information on each page. But on the sides of the pages is the notes from John Orro about his adventures and things that he finds. And then there's tons of great artwork. So this is just this page is an introduction to Greek mythology. So this page is about the Olympians in the world. So this is about Greece's view of the world, and it says that the ancient Greeks thought that the center of the world was Delphi, which I think was a city. And so this is what they thought the world looked like. And it talks a little bit here about their concept of the underworld, which is where they thought you went when you died. And then this is different constellations and the stories behind, a little bit about the stories behind each. Like Centaurus, Chiron was a centaur who tutored two Greek heroes, Heracles and Jason, and then he died and was placed in the heavens and became a constellation. And here we have a huge map of ancient Greece, and then around the borders of it are the Greek gods and goddesses, which is really cool. And then here on this page, this is a family tree of the Greek gods, monsters, and heroes, which is really interesting to try to lay it all out like this, because there's a lot of interconnections, which you can kind of see here. The dotted lines means either a marriage or a union of some sort, and the solid lines are like children, siblings, and then anything in a box is a god. Anything in the normal font is a demigod or hero, and then a monster is in italics and underlined. It's really neat. It's also confusing. I think if you didn't know the stories, this would probably not mean that much to you, except for the main gods. So here, this is about the creation of the gods. So first there was the Titans, and Cronus was the most powerful Titan, and he created all of the gods. They're all his children, and his children, see this illustrations about the war of gods and titans. His children, who were the Greek gods, rose up and destroyed him, and it was like a new age in Greek mythology. mythology. This is all before people were created. This is their origin stories. So we have a little bit here about how Aphrodite was created, the enemies of Zeus. It's a legend that he imprisoned an enemy under Mount Etna, and that when it spews forth lava, it's because the creature trapped under there is mad. And then here we have this little envelope, domains of the gods. So the legend is, as it sort of explains here, that the gods drew lots to determine where their domains would be. So for instance, let's see, Poseidon drew the sea, so he became the god of the sea. So this is supposed to be a note from John Oro. These are something that he found on his journey, domains of the gods. I no longer require these lots now that I am sure Zeus will guide me. And then there's little sticks that say, it's little pieces of paper that look like popsicle sticks, and they say the different lots on them, like underworld, Hades, I'm sure it's Zeus, I forget what he was of the sky, maybe. I'm sure it says ocean, Poseidon. I haven't opened them. Put that back. Monsters and mythical beasts. This is about the wild creatures that the gods created. Some of the gods, I should say. This is about the Gorgons, which Medusa, I think, was one of the Gorgons. They were three sisters. Wait, what are they? Hold on. I think there was three Gorgon sisters, and Medusa, who had the snakes for hair, and she turned you to stone if you looked at her in her eyes. She was a Gorgon. And this is the story of how the hero Perseus defeated Medusa. And then there's some cool illustrations on the side of the other creatures: Harpy, Siren, Fury, Graiae. And then here, Book of Serpents. This is about more monsters: Python, Ladon, Typhon, and Echidna, and how heroes defeated them. This is a really cool picture of Oedipus and the Sphinx. I love that style of art. The Boar of Calydon. This is a little book, specimen, handle with care. This is supposed to be a piece of the Golden Fleece, which I'm trying to remember the legend of the Golden Fleece. It's just yarn and some metallic string, but it was something that one of the heroes was charged with finding as one of their tasks, I think. And then I'm not sure if it was the same hero or a different one. I think might have worn it as protection. I might be misremembering that. It's a cool image of a pot. The origins of mankind. So this is how man was created. Let me take another sip of my tea. There's so much in this book. I can't go through all of it with you, or else we'll be here all day. But this is talking about Atlantis, the lost city of Atlantis, and thinking about how the modern day Santorini could have been in its place, showing these maps. This is an image of Prometheus. He was punished for helping humans, and his punishment was to be stuck on this mountainside, and an eagle would tear out his liver. It's so gross. Every day, and he would regenerate, and then it would happen again the next day. But he was eventually freed by the hero Heracles, so it didn't last forever, which is good for him. And this is Pandora's box. Do not open for any reason. You know, Pandora's box was supposed to be a legend where she got a box and she wasn't supposed to open it, and she did, and it unleashed all of the evil in the world. So this is kind of cool. And it says at the bottom, hope. So like hope escaped, and it's all the evil things escaping into the world. It's kind of a cool illustration. There's so many pictures in this book. So this is about Zeus and Hera, who were the rulers of the gods, husband and wife, and Zeus was the most powerful god. And he cheated on her a lot. He had a lot of children with, I think, mostly mortals, but maybe also other gods. I'm not remembering right now. And this is just, yeah, if a god had a child with a mortal, the child was a demigod, half mortal, half immortal. And Hera would punish people that Zeus had children with. These are oak leaves of the oracle. So here John Orrow writes about the oak tree at Dodona. So there was an oak tree in Dodona that the ancient Greeks interpreted the rustling of its leaves as different signs from Zeus and a goddess named Dione. And these are oak leaves of the oracle, so little paper oak leaves. And there's a little key here if you wanted to try to use them, like 3 white leaves means no, 3 yes, 3 dark leaves means yes. This page is about Poseidon. I think Poseidon's a really cool god. He's the ruler of the sea, and he has a chariot here you can see being pulled through the water. But he also had, these are horses, but he had hippocamps, half horse, half fish, that would pull the chariot sometimes. And this is a little condensed version of the Odyssey by Homer. It's a very famous epic story. And then here's a little bit about ancient Greek boats. And cool pictures on the sides. Now it's talking about Hades and the underworld and the legend of Persephone, which Hades stole Persephone away. One day she was out picking flowers in a field, and he stole her and carried her down to the underworld. And Persephone's mother was Demeter. She's a Greek goddess. So Hades' brother, I guess. And she was so sad that Persephone was stolen, that the whole earth became barren. And so Zeus said that Persephone has to be returned. But Hades tricked her into eating 4 pomegranate seeds, which meant that for 4 months of the year, Persephone had to go back to his kingdom. And while she is down in the underworld, her mom, Demeter, is so sad the earth goes barren, and that's their explanation for the seasons. So when it's winter, Persephone is down in the underworld with Hades, and Demeter is sad. And then this is kind of talking about what they thought happened after you died, that you would have to have a coin to give to this guy, Charon, to ferry you across the river Styx. And then once you got to the other side, you would be judged, and there were a few places that you could go in the underworld depending on how good you were in life. And if you weren't good or bad, you would go to the Elysian Fields. Oh no, I'm sorry, you would go to Asphodel. If you were a hero and you were really good, you would go to the Elysian Fields, and then if you were really bad, you would go to Tartarus. Yeah, these are just more summaries of other legends. And then here, opals. What is this? A silver opal such as this was used to pay Charon for crossing the river Styx. Oh, so it's like an ancient coin. So it's got a guy's head on the front and then a griffin on the back. Oops. Interesting. And here's some more myths about Ares, Aphrodite, and Hephaestus. This is impression of a death mask found in the burial chamber of a warrior king. It's very shiny. I was shown this death mask in the house of a farmer. As yet, its existence is unknown outside Greece, so this is something John Worrow found. This is a map of the Battle of Marathon. So this is actually another, is it myth? I think this is true. The first guy to run a marathon. So there was a battle in okay. I'm not sure if the battle was in Marathon or not, but there was a battle and this guy ran 26.2, however long a marathon is, to the next city to tell them what had happened, the outcome of the battle. And he got to the end. He made it, and he delivered his news, and then he died. Running that distance killed him. And that's, the origin of marathons, I think. That's what I think, anyway. The explanations here are not easy for me to scan, so I can't. That's my interpretation of it. Apollo, Hermes, and Dionysus. Knowledge cards of the gods of Olympus. So these are trading cards about the gods. What's the back? It's got each god and their powers and what they were the god of, and there's instructions here if you wanted to play a little game with them, you can. And this is just about more gods. Athena, Artemis, and Hestia. names of the gods, because they changed their names. Really, really pretty pictures of these goddesses, though. This is the Parthenon from the top view, the west side. And then the inside, if you took the roof off, it had a statue of Athena in it. I think these pictures on the side are pretty too. Heracles and the Greek heroes. So Heracles, I think that's Hercules of the Disney movie. Oh yeah, okay. Jason and the Argonauts is the story with the golden fleece. So here's an illustration of him fighting a dragon for it. And Heracles fighting the Nemean lion, and then Theseus and the Minotaur. The Minotaur is like a half bull, half man, and it was at the center of this maze, and Theseus had to go in there and destroy the Minotaur. It was like a big monster. These are all heroes, like, completing their heroic quests. So, this little note from John Oro says that he has the golden fleece now. I read a hymn. So he's in a cave on a mountain with the golden fleece, which he found. He's talking to Zeus. I shouted to the god that I would be his forever if he would give me the power to turn things to gold. I felt a glow around my fingers. My quill is turning to gold as I write. So I write this: let all those who once doubted or opposed me now fear me and beware my wrath. And then the page is starting to turn gold here. It's an allusion to another Greek myth, which they talk about here. This is about the war against Troy and the wooden horse for the Trojans. Now they want the Trojan horse. And then here's more, you can see like more gold on the page. And John Oro's talking about, how great this is. Who cares about relics? I can make my own great things. And then he says, all I touch turns to gold, even food. A horror is dawning. Could this gift actually be a curse? There must be an escape, surely. Father Zeus wants me to eat. I actually just realized there's, from certain angles, there's a little Greek word on this fruit. And then this page is like really gold, and it says, this is the story of King Midas, a little condensed version. And then John Oro is saying, now I have read the story of Midas. I asked Zeus to take his gift back. Thunder rumbled like laughter. There's no hope. I touched my chest, and now I too am turning to gold. I must write a warning before it's too late. And then there's a little picture of Achilles' heel. Of Achilles, who got an arrow through his heel. Then the back page. So then this is things about Lord Byron, who died in Greece. So this is like a little fake newspaper clipping about his death. A piece of a poem from him about him. And then another article about his involvement in Greece. And a little poem to Zeus. And then a note from John Oro: when you travel, it's good to keep a journal of what you have seen and done. It's better to share it with your friends in a letter. I have no further use for this packet of letter paper. If it has not turned to gold, then I hope you can make use of it. And then there's little pieces of paper in here with gold smattering on them. And then the back cover is also covered in gold. So that's this book. Let me get into my thoughts on it in just a second. So here are my thoughts on this book. I think it's a really beautiful book visually, and the artwork is incredible, and I love that there's so much of it. There's just a couple of things that I thought could have, I'll just say I wish had been done differently. One of those things is that these little pop-out things are just not as interesting as in the other books that I've gone through. I think having little attachments like this is like a signature part of the Ologies books, but the ones in this book, frankly, I think are a little lame. Like the stationery at the end and like the oak leaves. I just don't think that it's that fun, and it doesn't really add anything to the story like in the other books. Another critique I have is that they really packed a lot of info into this book, and I think they kind of sacrificed what makes the Greek myths special. It's like they tried to include every single myth, every single god and goddess and monster, and they just didn't have enough space to really get into it. But they cut out a lot of the detail and a lot of the magic and what makes those stories interesting. So the way that the info is presented here is very dry and lacks character, and it just wasn't I think as fun to read as it could have been. I think if they had focused it down and had more space to really get into it, it could have been a more interesting story. And then the story of John Oro sort of suffers from the same thing, where it's very formulaic and condensed. They just gave it like 2 photos and a couple blurbs, 2 photos and a couple blurbs, and that format just doesn't really give you a lot of space to get into it. Like, I think the ending of what happens to him isn't as impactful as it could have been if you'd had more detail about his story. In the other books I've found that little side story is one of the more interesting parts of the book, and in this book, it just wasn't. It really felt like just like an add-on thing that wasn't really fleshed out. I still think it's a really creative idea. I still like how they, laid everything out visually, so beautiful. It is cool to have this overview of Greek mythology in a very condensed format. I think they took on a very meaty task by doing that, and I still think it's a really cool book. And thank you for watching my video and going through it with me, and I hope that brought some